Siordia from Wolf Martial Arts. I have my student Tom here with me, and I want to talk about some variations between movements of Filipino martial arts and Jeet Kune Do. So if you have any familiarity with Filipino martial arts, they use a technique called gunting, which is a scissor-like defend and offense or counter-offensive into these mechanics. So we do it a lot with weapons, but we do it with that again. So if Tom was in his fighting stance and he threw a jab, you'll see something like this, like a split entry gunting into some sort of combination, right? So I noticed there was a conversation on the internet about Jeet Kune Do, and they're saying, well, if you're doing this, it's not really the Jun Fan material. Can it be Jeet Kune Do? Absolutely. My approach, if I'm using the principles and philosophy, that can still be Jeet Kune Do. I just adopted it from another system. That's what Jeet Kune Do was. It was not made up from its own techniques. It borrowed from other systems and implemented them using the philosophies and principles, okay? So what came up was, if we didn't have guntings, what similarities did Jun Fan have, or the early version of Jeet Kune Do, before it got through the evolutions of the late 70s and 80s and 90s and today. Okay, so there's a technique called Jip Sao, okay? So when he throws that jab, instead of me doing this type of mechanic, I still get a parry, but I might shift to the inside like I do an inside parry. That cross could fire, so it puts us a little bit at risk. However, if I put in the pain when he throws that jab, the Jip Sao is me taking and hyperextending the arm temporarily on his extension. So if he just throws a regular jab, just give it 1, 2, and I go for 3. That's me being very nice, but he can tell that I could have just popped that a little bit more to give it the hyperextension. So we call it the Jip Sao, right? And now I decide, am I going, if he throws more of a horizontal fist, which is a standardized punch, I'm also working the horizontal plane, because I understand where the bottom of his fist is at usually lines up with his elbow, so I can do the horizontal Jip Sao. If he does a chung choi or vertical fist punch, I go underneath it, right? And I wouldn't just stand there. Sometimes, we were talking about this earlier, right? That when we do guntings, some people just stand there and they do stuff like this, whatever. If he's really intending on hitting me, be very nice. I would still get hit with this if I don't have proper head movement, right? So when he does this, make sure you're moving offline. If I do the Jip Sao, I'm also moving offline. And I believe this is the technique that Bruce Lee used in his choreography when he was fighting Chuck Norris, okay? That Chuck Norris threw this rear cross and Bruce Lee went like this. And he had the Jip Sao, I'm sorry, he went this way, so let me do it the right way. He went like this, okay? And then he did a side kick to break the knee, which I thought was kind of cool. So it's the hyperextension. So you can practice this. You have to be very gentle on the mechanical movement, and he would have to know that it's happening so that he can kind of tense up his arms. Don't go for the full hyperextension. He won't be my training partner anymore. When he throws a jab, I hit the Jip Sao on that side, and when he throws the jab cross, I get Jip Sao on that side, right? So I'm able to do the hyperextension briefly here and here. And one other way I'll show you that I used to get this, I did this 26 years ago, is that when he would throw the jab, I would lean back and help hyperextend that arm. And when people were inexperienced, that really helped cause that hyperextension, just a single hand. So I would sway back and knock it up in the air. Very similar to what a gunting might happen when we sway back and get a shot like that, or I move outside and I'm just trying not to make that contact, or I'm trying to keep out of range. If he throws a jab cross, same thing. I Jip Sao on that side, right? So it's just an arm wrench in flight when somebody is throwing a punch. This is the way Jeet Kune Do uses it, or at least the way I express and interpret using the Jip Sao techniques. Let me just go to the dummy real quick, okay? Just show where part of this is used in maybe a little bit more traditional aspect of it. Coming from Wing Chun, of course, okay? Number 10 dummy set goes Man Sao, Juk Tek. Man Sao, Juk Tek. Gang Jam Sao. Now here come the Jip Saos. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll just finish it up. Okay, that's the dummy set 10 from the Jun Fan interpretation of the Wing Chun dummy, okay? So you can see after Gang Jam Sao, I go Jip Sao here. Now, it's really kind of doing this, but this gives us a good orientation of where the hyperextensions would occur. Obviously, if he throws a jab cross, that's not going to get me anything, that translation, so I have to kind of bring them together. So when I go here, that's what I'm doing, right? So we can see I'm on the outside of one arm, inside of the other, and I just we're just boxing. He throws jab cross, parry, parry, got it, parry, parry, and then I'm gonna put the jip sao on there, and I would just go. So I hope that I would just get that hyperextension briefly, and you get that shock, and then I just keep going in. You don't win the fight by that, but it startles them, hurts them a little bit, gives you that moment in time, and then you enter in with the combination. So test it, play around with this technique, do it slowly, and make sure your opponent, or your training partner, I should say, not your opponent, your training partner understands the mechanics so they can kind of not fully extend their arm, so they have a little bit of give when you're training it. Don't really go for this stuff. You can injure people very quickly here, which does make it effective in self-defense, but in training, don't hurt your training partner. So thank you guys, take care.